We've had a few birthdays recently in town. I'm not sure if you've kept up to date, but I met a few families and there was a young toddler who had a birthday just a couple of days ago, and then I knocked on another door and the boy was having his 13th birthday, and then I met a really young man in his 50s, that's very young, isn't it, who had a birthday yesterday. And then we had a distinguished resident of our town who celebrated her 95th birthday during the week. And amidst the cheer, the joy, the prayers, the cake, I asked her, what advice would you give to lovely young people who have the whole of their life ahead of them? She said just two words: be kind. Be kind to each other. We hear a bit about kindness these days. It's quite popular. I wonder if that's what you think of when you hear these words of Jesus. I give you a new commandment. Be kind. No, he didn't say that. And now I'm not against kindness, don't get me wrong. He didn't say be kind, be nice, be friendly. He said love one another. Now, the trap is that you stop there. That's the trap. You think, oh, okay, well, we're just meant to have a big hug and we just love each other. We just, everyone's very kind. Everyone's very kind to each other. No. You'd be tremendously mistaken, friends. Please, I need you to really listen to this. He said, I give you a new commandment. Love one another as I have loved you. And then you have to stop and think, all right, well, so how did Jesus love us? Now, at that time when he was speaking, the Last Supper, they had no idea what was coming. No idea. Even though he had prophesied in detail what would happen. This is the context. Christian love is not about being a kind person. It's about giving your life for people. It's a type of love that really cuts, it really hurts, because it asks of us to lay down our lives. So when our Lord says, love one another as I have loved you, to the point of death, not when it's convenient, not when you feel like it, not when you've had a good night's sleep. No. So much more. I'm not sure if you've heard, I'm putting together a video of some of the dogs in Hay, all right? It's a particular love of mine. I have to draw the line because the video will go forever otherwise. Each celebrity dog gets 20 seconds, okay? But we've had at least 13 or 14 dogs from our town, whole variety of wonderful creatures, starring in this video, which is being put together. And interestingly, I've had a few chats with some of the owners and my time at the dog park. And you meet all sorts of dogs, don't you, in your travels. And some people are dog people and some aren't. Those of you who are not dog people, I will pray for your healing and conversion, because that's just not right. When you talk about dogs, what happens is you think, well, you've got the dogs that are cute and cuddly and friendly and, they're happy and everything. They don't pose any threat. Then you've got those big dogs, those ones that, if you've got a little dog, you think, you cannot eat my dog for breakfast, So they've got a separate little park there. So when you're at the dog park, sometimes you get a Great Dane turn up or a Rottweiler or something like that. Now, this is it. And I'm going to generalize, so just cut me a bit of slack, all right? Dogs are so much like us because you judge them by appearance. And they look gruff, or they look tough, or they look big, and you think, oh boy, I want to be stuck in a room with that guy, back alley. Yet the dogs, they're just like suckers for love, right? And if you're kind and friendly, respectful, generally, hopefully they've got a human master. That would be good as well, who's taught them well. But we're often like that. We go by appearances. I tell you, I really want to stress this point tonight. The eve before our Holy Father has his inaugural Mass as the Bishop of Rome, the successor of St. Peter, the Vicar of Christ, people have been talking about Pope Francis and Leo and other popes as opposed to how they relate to people. And especially Pope Francis, they talk about he was very much a pastor of gestures through his images and his embraces and the way he related to people, interacted with them. They're looking at this Pope now. Does he smile? How does he interact? How is he with young people, with the elderly, the sick? How much time does he give each individual? And they study him, forgetting about his words and what he wears for the moment. They just observe him. And I'm saying very carefully tonight, and I'm saying this to myself, is that people study us, not just the Pope. They look at us. And by that, I'm not talking about, whether we've had a shave or our hair or what we're wearing. I'm talking about the way we look at people, the way we talk to them, our body language, our gestures, the sincerity in our voice, the kindness of our welcome, our spontaneous reactions when we engage people. I'm talking in the context they know us as people of faith and Catholics, the people who go to church, right? People look at us. And I tell you, there's one thing in particular that leaves a tremendously profound impression on folks all around us, is the way we respond. Do we have this Christ-like sacrificial love, or are we just like everyone else? We get grumpy, we get annoyed, we get impatient, we judge, we gossip. It's so common and it's so easy for us to fall into that trap. They have these interviews and they say, what would you tell your younger self? What advice would you give to your younger self? So if you're having a chat to your 18-year-old self, or in my context, if you were sitting down and having a heart-to-heart with this young guy who was 22 on his first day in the seminary, when you train to become a priest. Now, some people get that confused. They think it's the cemetery. No, it's the seminary, right? You might think that there's similarities. No, it's not. What advice would I give to myself? I wouldn't say be kind. I wouldn't say that to myself. I'd say you better have an enormous dose of truly sacrificial love where you can swallow your pride, bite your tongue, forgive people, mix and not judge folks, and extend a very, very sincere, compassionate welcome to everyone, no matter how you feel, no matter what's happened, whether you've got a good night's sleep, you've got a pain in the neck, whatever it is. Because usually we're not interested in everyone's stories, are we? We just want to know how we're treated. And I can tell you, because what often happens is people who have been hurt by priests in any sort of way, whether it's something horrendous or something just minor, right? Often they whinge to other priests. You wouldn't believe what that priest down the road did. We hear so many stories of priests, how they spoke and how they reacted and everything. And can I just tell you, and mind you, and we hear confessions, and people come to us to confide, we hear a lot of, heart-to-heart stories. And the thing that I've heard more than anything else that makes people reluctant to come to church or to come back to church is not the choir, it's not the stained glass windows, it's not the building, it's not the time of Mass, it's none of those things. Yes, it's partly how the community welcomes and how I feel and all that business. It's partly the homily, yeah, I know, I get it. They can just turn on the TV and hear everyday stuff. They want to hear the gospel, they want to hear the truth, they want to be inspired. But the thing that I've heard over the years, I've been a priest coming up like 23 years. I started on the 5th of September 1991, right? So I've been at it for a little while. It's not 100 years, but it's a while, right? The countless stories I've heard were people who were alienated from the church because a priest was rude to them. Not that the priest punched them in the face. No, but he was rude. He was grumpy. He was impatient. He had no time for me. He was snappy on the phone. He gave us a half-baked baptism ceremony. He was grumpy when the kids made noise at church. Well, that's just the everyday stuff, the stuff that we all do. Yet, for better or for worse, we are kinda, not completely, but we're kinda the face of the church. And if the priest is truly sincere, and by that I don't mean he's just a nice bloke, I mean, but he really is dedicated to giving his life for his people and those around, and he's a person who's not just of the people, but he gives his life for the people. There's a huge difference. Any priest can just be a people person. But to follow Christ is not a popularity contest. We have to really challenge ourselves about whether or not we only say the things that people want to hear. You know what that is? That's called politics. I might get re-elected if I say what people wanted to hear, and if I have popular policies. But we have to be faithful to the gospel.
No.
God help us to be true Christians following the love of Christ, not just to be pleasant, not just to be people pleasers, but to be willing to truly love and give our lives, to forgive and to serve and to be tremendously generous, that our love, our Christian love, stands out in this town and people see us and they are drawn, not to us, but to Christ.